Hello and welcome everybody to episode 67 of N1 from the End Zone with your favorite host, King NPD. On this episode, we're going to be paying our respects to the greatest fighter of all time, Jon Jones, who has officially retired from the sport of the UFC mixed martial arts. We are also going to be talking about the move that has the NBA shaken KD to the Houston Rockets, the Oklahoma City Thunder winning their first ever NBA title, the U.S. men's national team going perfect in the group stage of the Gold Cup, the WNBA currently negotiating their collective bargaining agreement, and Paul Pogba making his return to professional soccer. Now, before we get into this episode, I want to take a brief moment to thank all of you guys, my subscribers, for being a part of my channel. We are over 11,000 subs and on our way to 12. Please click on that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment so I know if you agree or disagree with my takes. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. You're watching the latest episode of N1 from the End Zone. Please click on that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. Now, let's kick it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the topic that is currently being talked about around the world, or at least around America right now, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder winning their first NBA title. Since moving to Seattle, they haven't won a championship, and one could say that they had a stellar team when they had Perkins, they had KD, they had Russell, they had James. They made it to, I think, one or two finals together. This kid never get over the hump, and then they broke that team apart. And then from us, basically stemming from those moves that they made, Paul acquiring Paul George, moving Russ, basically once getting rid of those guys, those moves have led to them winning a championship. Like offloading all those players. I know they didn't get anything in return for KD, but I know they got something in return, or they didn't get anything in return for KD or James Harden, but they got something in return for Russell Westbrook. They got something in return for Paul George. And they got Shea for Paul George, actually, I think. And it just ended up being a beautiful outcome for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Realistically, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander had a fucking season to remember, a historic season where he won the MVP. I think he also won the scoring title, if I'm not mistaken. He won the Western Conference Finals MVP. He won the Finals MVP. He led the team through and through. Like, this is what, like, when you talk about a superstar, this is what a superstar does. Shea Gilgeous through and through was the best player in the world this year. Even though I still think Jokic is a much better overall player than Shea, Shea did it. Shea did it. He's a champion, MVP champion in all categories. All categories. It's undisputed. Chet Holmgren, in my honest opinion, had a finals kind of to forget. Yes, he had a tremendous game 7 where he helped close out the Pacers. But again, it was game 7 was literally once Tyrese Halliburton went out, like it was like sharks in blood infested water. Yes, the Pacers had a 1-point lead heading into halftime. However, that lead quickly into the third quarter it dissipated because they just were deflated. You could see that the energy wasn't there. They tried to rely on TJ McConnell. McConnell, I feel like he was just trying to force it a little bit too much. There wasn't a lot of ball movement. Yeah, they forced a couple of good turnovers, but once they started to force it a little bit more, it just unrailed, in my personal opinion. So the Thunder, being who they were, the best team in the league this year, knowing who they are, having a great head coach, having a great overall team roster built around them, closed out the game 7. And it sucks because now realistically Tyrese Halliburton's going to be out for the entirety of 2025, 2026 because of how late this injury occurred. So realistically, I feel bad for the Pacers because I don't think they're going to be able to get back to a finals unless they make a tremendous move. Yes, I understand they have Rick Carlisle, they have Pascal Siakam, Nembhard, a lot of good young core talented players. However, even with Tyrese Halliburton coming back, I don't think they're gonna have enough with how the East is gonna be shaping here in the future. Next year would have been the best time for the Pacers to try to go for a repeat and make a finals run. Unless they make a big move this offseason, I just don't see it happening. Because you got to think about it. Jason Tatum out for the year for the Celtics. Dame Lillard out for the year for the Bucks, even though the Bucks haven't really been making any noise. I think Doc Rivers needs to be fired. I don't know why he's still the head coach over there. They're not good. They're not good. They're wasting Giannis. That's my take on the Bucks. The Magic have traded for Desmond Bane because they think that's the missing piece that they need to be able to be like the Indiana Pacers essentially next year. So also Cleveland Cavaliers, they're going to be back. They're going to probably be healthy. They have time to recover now. So and I don't think they had any like gruesome season-ending injuries heading into next year. I think players are going to be coming back healthy and being able to compete. So again, the East next year for the Pacers, like it was open for them, but when Tyrese comes back, I don't know. And literally the Tyrese Halliburton injury was just like the KD injury. The only difference was he played the entirety of Game 6, and I think the reason why he was able to play the entirety of Game 6 is because of his youth factor. He's still a young player. I think he's like 24, 25, 26. He was around my age, I think. And because of that, like he's young, he was able to recover. He was able to play tremendously well Game 6, but that calf gave out 7 minutes into this game, and it just didn't look good. It just didn't look good. He was hitting everything. He was splashing like a motherfucker. He hit 3 out of 4 threes. And he was, I think they would have honestly, the game would have came down to a Tyrese Halliburton 3-pointer or game winner. I feel like if Tyrese would have been able to stay healthy, I feel like that's what this game would have come down to. He either hits it or he misses it, but that's what this game would have come down to. But Tyrese went out, and the Pacers, they just could not recover. And kudos to them. Kudos to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They got their first championship ring since moving from Seattle, and we'll see if they'll be able to repeat next year. Which actually moves us on to my next topic, ladies and gentlemen. The West is getting more difficult, and that is because the Phoenix Suns have agreed to send Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets in a blockbuster deal where they get in exchange Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, this year's number 10 overall pick, and 5 second-round picks, as reported to ESPN on Sunday. It's honestly crazy. I think KD was at Fanatics Fest today, and that's where he found out that the trade happened. He was on stage, was being interviewed, and basically the host announced it to the world and everybody there that KD was being traded to the Houston Rockets. And good for KD. I think the Rockets was one of KD's preferred destinations, and realistically, I think the Suns got a haul. The Suns got a haul for KD. They got Jalen Green, who is a young scorer who can develop and could be a 2 or a 3rd scoring option alongside Dillon Brooks if Bradley Beal can ever get his shit together. You got a hard, gritty, hard-nosed defender, gritty guy in Dillon Brooks who will do the dirty work. And then you got this year's number 10 overall pick, who I don't know a lot about NBA prospects or who they'll be able to select. But if you're the number 10 overall pick in the NBA, you're projected to be able to play or develop into something, right? And then you have essentially 5 second-round picks moving forward. So you can use those picks to acquire talent, draft talent, develop talent. So the Suns I think the Suns did the best deal for the Suns for KD, and all I think they had to give up was KD to the Houston Rockets. And I don't know, honestly, Ahmed Thompson, I have to give my respects to Ahmed Thompson. I think Ahmed Thompson is a fucking phenomenal player, great second option. Realistically, I don't know if Şengün is going to stay as the primary option. I think KD might be the number 1. and Ahmed might stay as the number 2 and Şengün the 3, because I personally think Ahmed Thompson is a much better scorer, finisher around the rim than Şengün. I think Şengün, even though he has demonstrated to have an offensive prowess, I just like Ahmed Thompson's overall game a lot more. And I see a lot much higher potential in Ahmed, where he becomes a number 1 or 2 more than Şengün. I think Şengün, he can become that hard-nosed, gritty defender, that similar to kind of like Jokic and his playmaking ability. And I'm just excited to see how the Houston Rockets honestly like play this out. Ime Udoka is one of the best coaches in the NBA, and having the talent that he now has at his disposal. Yes, you're losing a Dylan Brooks. Yeah, you're losing a Jalen Green, but you're getting a Kevin Durant, who's a sharpshooter. I don't know if it'll push them into finals contention, but I think it'll help them get past the first round. KD, this might be the first time KD gets out of the first round since leaving against the Golden State Warriors, in my personal opinion. Or I think he got out of the first round once in Brooklyn. Might be exaggerating. But I think, hey, they could be Western Conference Finals contender because KD is your go-to shooter. He's your primary, like he can be a primary scorer if you need him to be. I think he could be that guy. He has the experience, he has the pedigree. If it looks, in my personal opinion, it looks like he has the dogs around him. Ime Udoka is a stellar head coach, and I think they'll be able to get either to the second round of the playoffs, maybe the Western Conference Finals. Maybe, but we have to see how that chemistry develops. And I would wish nothing but the best for KD. He gave me a championship ring, or he gave me 2 championship rings when he was here with my Warriors. I hated how things ended between the Warriors and KD, and I still have a tremendous amount of respect and fondness for what he brought to our team, what he did for Steph, Draymond, Clay, Steve, like for everybody. He did a lot. He did a lot, especially for our community. I don't think a lot of people talk about it. He built parks. He was great for our community. And again, I hope this move to the Houston Rockets makes him happy and fulfills him as the baller that he is.
Guys, have you heard? Nelson, tell the people.
Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons.
Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area and want the best cut of your life, go check out Headspins Barbershop, located in South San Francisco, the official barbershop of N1 from the End Zone.
Guys, join me, Alex the Man Angelov, and check out A&A Radio, where we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest financial news, investments, banking, and personal finance. Check out the channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's talk about the WNBA and the current negotiations taking place for their new CBA. Now, in my honest opinion, I think it is ridiculous how low player salaries are currently in the WNBA. But the reason why, and I could understand from the NBA, the investors in the NBA's perspective, it is because of how small the league is still currently and how much it costs to maintain the league. Now, I think players' minimum salaries at the moment should not be around $66,000 if you have 0 to 2 years of experience. And then if you have 3 years plus, minimum player salary is about $78,000. I think that's way too low, especially because you are basically on television. Now, I do know WNBA players are not as marketable as NBA players. And realistically, I understand in equality terms and in fairness, the WNBA players want something closer to a 50-50 split with the NBA players. But the difference between the NBA players and the WNBA players is the NBA league has been a league that's been around, I think, since the like 50s or 60s. Maybe even the 40s. I think they've been around since the 40s. There was the ABA and then NBA, and then they merged, and the league grew. And over time, the league has become what it is today. And the WNBA, I think it's still like a 20-year-old league. So the WNBA should compare themselves with how the NBA was at that stage, right? And realistically, it's growing. They have players like Caitlin Clark that's making the game more marketable. They have Angel Reese, who isn't necessarily a great WNBA player, but is a good talking point, which makes the game more marketable. You got Paige Beckers, who is having a phenomenal rookie season, in my personal opinion. Then you got Juju Watkins coming in. You still have the great Asia Wilson. You still got the great Brianna Short, Sabrina Ionescu, who in the last couple of years has become a more marketable superstar. Agumba Wale, who plays lights out. Hats off to her. So there are players that are becoming more marketable, more noticeable. In Kelsey Plum, how could I forget Kelsey Plum? Sorry, Diana Taurasi, who is now retired. Sorry, sorry, but there are players that are being more recognized, but it's just not as marketable. I think with this new CBA, a fairer split to the ladies. Maybe it's not 50-50 what like the NBA gets, but at least like let's say 25 to 20%, doubling what they're currently getting. So like the minimum for a player that is barely coming into the league can be at least $100,000, maybe $120,000. Now I know that guys, I understand the WNBA is not like the NBA where it's generating a shit ton of money. It only has 13 teams right now, and it really does cost a lot of money to maintain the facilities. Now that they have chartered flights, that's also another expense that has to be covered, right? So they are getting they are getting this money in from the new from the new media rights deal, and sponsorship deals and everything that's coming along, but it is a slow process, and I really hope the WNBAPA or the WNPPA, the Players Association for the WNBA, realizes that, because asking for 50-50 in a league that is not profitable, and you guys can't necessarily cover your expenses without being subsidized by the NBA, doesn't doesn't seem one fair, or doesn't seem right. Investors got to like get their money back somehow, and right, like teams really don't make money until they sell the team. Like money's all tied up. It's a whole clusterfuck, right? So with all that being said, I really do hope that they have a good negotiation. I hope they have a fairer deal than what they're currently getting, because in some states 66,000 isn't a livable fucking wage if you're a pro athlete, right? And you're coming out on TV and shit. Now $100,000, 120,000, you can live comfortably. You don't have to get a second job. 66,000 if you're like a rookie coming out of college, no experience. Like why do you like if you're a WNBA player, you got to go get a secondary job. If you are a WNBA player in the South and you get like the minimum to be at least $120,000 a year, making the maximum that a player can get be 500,000 to 750,000, maybe a million. Actually, a million might be pushing it a little bit too much, because the NBA does it the same way. I think like some players are making like 50 million, and the salary cap is like 250 million. So yeah, like even having it be like a million, like the lower end player makes a minimum. The minimum is like 120,000. The high end player makes about 750 to 1 million a year. I think that would be fair. And then again, I think the WNBA needs to compare itself in terms of age to the NBA when it was at that point, and also notice that they don't have that many teams yet. So over time they're gonna get there. Uh, who knows where they'll be by the time Caitlin Clark goes into year 6, year 7, when I think this collective bargaining agreement has to be redone. But it's a slow process. They need at least a couple more expansion teams. They need a few more marketable faces, and they're coming. They are coming, and I'm excited to see what is in store for the WNBA. And I'm all for equality and everything. I want to see. Naneka Gumake, who is the president of the WNBA Players Association, says that they're all trying to get to the same place, and it looks like it's positive talks. The WNBA Players Association opted out of the collective bargaining agreement back in October 2024. So right now, negotiations are currently underway, and we'll see. Players want to sit out in the WNBA, it seems like, to get something fair. But what does fairer necessarily mean? Because in my opinion, I don't see there being a WNBA if they're asking for a 50-50 split. If there's a lot of costs that go into maintaining a facility, getting charter flights, doing all these things for players. Now, if basically you do if you do a 50-50 split, you got to make sure that your league can sustain itself without having to be subsidized by another league. Until that can happen, I think a 25 to 30%, that 30% is a little bit gracious, but like a 25, 20, 30, I'll even go as high as 30, but 25-20 split seems like a much fairer in terms of the split between the players and the ownership, at least until the WNBA becomes a global, more marketable sport. And that's just 5 years down the road. In 5 years, they'll be able to make that leap to like 30 to 35, maybe 40. We'll see. But we'll keep an eye on it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to pay our respects to the greatest fighter of all times. This man right here, Jon Bones Jones, the greatest fighter to ever step into an octagon, has officially called it quits, retiring as the world heavyweight champion. Tom Aspinall is now the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion, but Jon Bones Jones, my personal opinion, never lost a fight. I know he's 28-1, but he never lost a fight. If you look at how that fight went down with Mark Hamill, he got disqualified, but he beat his ass. And I think it is an atrocious thing that blemish is on his record, because he should be 29-0. He is the greatest fighter of all time. Done it in multiple weight classes, from light heavyweight to heavyweight. I think he was even junior heavyweight. I think he was a welterweight as well. Like, Jon Bones Jones, greatest in my opinion of all fucking time when it comes to fighting. Had legendary bouts with Gustafsson, Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic. He beat the fuck out of Cyril Gane. The one fight that I wish we would have gotten was the Ngannou fight that never happened, that never flourished. And I know, like, people were saying that he was ducking Tom Aspinall. He was doing Tom Aspinall a fucking favor. I think that's how great I think Jon Jones is. I think he did Tom Aspinall a favor. Tom Aspinall said he was going to retire Jon Jones without even fighting him. And he was right there. He was right there. Personally, the way that I see it, Jones' legacy already cemented. Tom Aspinall, the fight with Tom Aspinall was just going to enhance Tom's legacy. And realistically, if, like, let's say that fight does happen, and let's say it goes down like at least how I think it'll go down. Jon Jones comes, fucking does a spinning heel kick to the fucking gut. It's over. Who else is there going to be to fight? If Tom Aspinall couldn't beat him, and we'll never know. We'll never know, because this fight isn't gonna happen. Realistically, like, who else was gonna be next? Now, at least Jon Jones doing this and not fighting Tom Aspinall kind of helps Tom out, because now he can go and he can talk and he can promote and say, oh, he's ducking me, he didn't want to fight me, this, that, whatever, right? He can now go and dominate the heavyweight division with nobody really in his way or in his path, and just create his legacy, cement it, fight whoever, fight whenever. Tom Aspinall, he's going to have a tremendous career. I think not having this fight with Jon Jones, I know he missed out on a shit ton of money, but at least he doesn't have that blemish on his record, right? At least, like, he can go ahead and he can talk his shit. But Jones, I'll be honest, I'm glad that he kind of retired at this point. I never wanted to see Jones lose a fight. I personally just never wanted to see Jon Bones Jones lose a fight. If he comes back and he has one more in him and he wants to come back for the money or whatever, go for it. But he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He's set. Fighters like him, fighters that like Khabib, for example, Khabib Nurmagomedov, like we wanted him to lose. At least I wanted to see him lose, but he never did. And he retired 30-0, nice round number. He retired and undefeated, perfectly cemented his legacy. Just never had a blemish on it or anything. Jones, in my opinion, other than that Mark Hamill fucking fight that happened back in like 2009, I think, which I think should, like, if it's possible to get that fucking shit rectified, please get that shit rectified, because he should be either 28-0 or 20, or he should be 28-0 or 29-0, and we should get that shit expunged, because he beat the fuck out of Mark Hamill. He did not, like, it wasn't a close fight at all. Jon Bones fucking Jones, it was the shit in his prime, and I used to go to, like, I couldn't pay to watch his fights. You know what I used to do? I used to go to fucking Dave & Buster's with my friends, and I wouldn't even fucking get a table or eat or anything. I just go to Dave & Buster's to watch this man right here go beat some ass, and I fucking loved it. And Jon Bones Jones, thank you for always delivering in your fights, because you legitimately were a killer performer. I'm not going to talk about the allegations and all the shit outside of the ring, because I'm a sports guy. I want to focus on the positivity, on the legacy that he left in the UFC. And it's honestly, it was a tremendous legacy. And I feel very honored, very gracious to have been able to witness this man right here in some of the biggest bouts against some great fucking legends. And wish him nothing but the best and happiness in all of his future endeavors. Now, we'll be right back after these messages. Guys, you're watching a Shady Mob production. Make sure to follow the Shady Mob podcast, where we break down all the latest content and talk about life. Please make sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified when the latest content drops. Guys, have you heard? Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss the U.S. men's national team going undefeated in the group stage of the CONCACAF Gold Cup. USA! Hey, colors are red, white, and blue, for God's sake. I can't get more patriotic than that on this show, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very critical. I am very critical of the U.S. men's national team, because I feel like for a very long, for as long as I've been alive, I feel like the Americans have a bigger head on their shoulders than what their body can actually support. Like, they're overconfident, and I think that just comes with being an American. But it's just unmerited, or at least in soccer, because the class of player that we've had, and just the overall CONCACAF, it's not a strong conference in my opinion, which makes it very easy for the US to dominate and qualify. Now, if they were in the CONMEBOL with the likes of Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, fucking Chile, Peru, I'm also part Peruvian, so I'm very salty, because my beloved Peru, who I've only gotten to see in the World Cup once, literally have to go against Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Ecuador, Paraguay, fucking Chile, Colombia, like all these teams that are ranked highly in the world. And the U.S. get who? Haiti, Trinidad, Tobago, fucking like Mexico and Canada. Like they're those are the three. Like in my opinion, the fact that we didn't qualify for one of the World Cups recently, I thought that was disgraceful. Like there is no way with the CONCACAF being the way that it is that you don't qualify for a World Cup. Like you should always be able to pencil in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada for a World Cup. And that is why I think Greg Berhalter had to leave, right? It wasn't in the 2024. No, was it 2024? I forget what year it was. No, I think that was when Klinsmann had to leave. That my bad. Greg Berhalter, there was a whole drama there as well. But Mauricio Pochettino, the fact that he is our manager for the U.S. men's national team is no small feat. Honestly, like Mauricio Pochettino could have gone anywhere, could have managed anywhere. He is in my personal opinion, one of the best managers in club football, in football as a whole. So the fact that he took this job, knowing the issues that it had, knowing that we have players that play in Europe, but either aren't regulars on the team that they're on, or are just, let's be honest, like because they play in Europe, they're a little bit full of themselves at times. At least I think they are, where they'll pick and choose. Like they don't want to come for the gold fucking cup, but they'll come for the CONMEBOL's fucking South America Cup, which is not their competition. They get invited. Where's Peru's invitation to the fucking World Cup? Or not the World Cup, I'm sorry, to the Gold Cup. Why did we invite the US? I think we've invited Mexico to the fucking South America Cup. Why don't we ever get invited to, will Peru ever get invited to the Gold Cup? Just saying, are they afraid that we're gonna fucking dominate that competition and fucking become champions in the Gold Cup? Just saying. I'm just here nor there. I ultimately believe the CONCACAF and the CONMEBOL should both like merge into one, and just do a big fucking pull there, but that's neither here nor there. But no, Mauricio Pochettino going into this Gold Cup, not having his A team, not having Pulisic out there, Tim Weah, not having like the players that he would rely on normally in the squad, and having to rely on the B team. And we're seeing players like Ajiman, like fucking Tillman, who, in my personal opinion, in the Gold Cup, since this competition have started, have been standout performers to me personally, who I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to be regulars in Mauricio Pochettino's U.S. men's national team squad, either in the starting 11 or in the squad as a whole, because he has that trust, he has that confidence in them, because they have been playing fucking phenomenal football. That is why they went 3-0 in the group stage, beating Saudi Arabia, beating Haiti, and dominating Trinidad and Tobago. And we have a head coach. The criticism on Mauricio Pochettino, in my personal opinion, when he barely took over and it was friendlies, was unwarranted. Why was it unwarranted, in my personal opinion? Because he hasn't had time to fully mesh with these players. He doesn't know who his starting 11 is. And now that he has a starting 11 for the Gold Cup, and not having the A team or the A players that he would usually have, this is going to be a little bit harder depending on how dominant this team is in this competition, and seeing who he realistically is going to put in when Pulisic and when everybody comes back, if they for the World Cup next year. Now, who's going to be left out? Because there are players that didn't come that might not be put, that are in the A team that might not be put on the A team. So I'm very curious to see how he manages it, but I really do think we have the right manager, the right head coach for the U.S. men's soccer program here in the United States. Finally, somebody like Mauricio Pochettino, who took Tottenham Hotspurs to win I think the FA Cup when he was the manager there. So yeah, Mauricio Pochettino, I'm sorry for the disrespect my fellow Americans have shown you, but you keep doing you, bro. You picking the squad, they listening to you, and they're playing their asses off for you. So thank you. And let's move on to the last topic of the day. Paul Pogba, ladies and gentlemen. This gentleman right here is making his return to professional football after playing his last game in September of 2023 for Juventus. He has verbally agreed to terms with AS Monaco to play for the League One side in the upcoming 2025-2026 season. Now, the reason why he's been away is because back in, I believe, 2023, 2024, in February 2024, they tested him for a substance called DHEA, and they found it in his system, which is a banned substance in FIFA, which basically they handed him a 4-year ban. He appealed it, and because of the appeal, it was reduced to 18 months, and that ban essentially came to an end in March. And he was worried. He was worried that being gone from the game for 4 years was gonna, if he basically knew his career was gonna be over if he was gone for 4 years. He hadn't touched the football, he hadn't trained, he hadn't done anything. If at that point in his mind, like he was talking about, obviously he's been training, he's been trying to stay fit, he's been trying to stay relevant in the sport of football. But if that had happened, he was probably going to hang up his boots. Thankfully, it didn't happen. He is adamant that this was something that happened by mistake, that it wasn't necessarily his fault. Maybe it was a mistake that he committed himself. But Paul Pogba in his prime was one of the best midfielders in the world, in my personal opinion. And the fact that he is now returning to the sport, and for a club like Monaco in the league, I know it, like a lot of people call the French league the League of Farmers, but PSG just won the fucking Champions League, right? They still got Marseille. Marseille is still a decent squad. They also got Leon, who at times is a good team as well. So the Monaco still one of the biggest clubs in the world, in my opinion, and him making a comeback for them, I don't know if he'll get playing time. I know when he was playing for Juventus, his last spurt, he was getting cameos here and there, coming on as a substitute, not necessarily playing 90 minutes. I think the last time he played 90 minutes was for Manchester United back in 2022. So it's been about 3 years. But it is great to see Paul Pogba coming back, being able to close his career the way that he wants to close it out, the way that he should close it out, in my personal opinion. And I wish him nothing but the best. And with that actually being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of this episode. Guys, thank you for watching the latest episode of Unwin from the End Zone with your favorite host, King NPV. Always remember, desire is power. If you desire to be great, you have the power to be great. Thank you all for your love and support. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. See you next time.